Hello and welcome to the Warsaw Security Forum, one of the biggest defense and security events in Central and Eastern Europe. I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska from TVP World, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome my next guest, Michael Johansson, the president and CEO of Saab, the Swedish security and defense company specializing in high technology involved in defense, aviation, and aerospace. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So, in February, we are approaching the 3-year mark of war in Ukraine. When we're looking at the totality of the situation, how do you see the current security dynamics in the Baltic region from your vantage point?
Well, I must say it's obvious from my perspective that the Eastern European countries pay a lot of attention how to build sort of a deterrence and an Eastern shield, including Poland, of course, which is an impressive country when it comes to increasing the defense spending and building this shield, and extremely supportive also of making Ukraine win this war, which is instrumental, I think, for all of us, for the whole of Europe and for everyone. So I think we are catching up when it comes to capacity in many countries in Europe as well. It's not something that is done overnight. We have been in a peace dividend a long time before 2022 and industry optimized for that situation. Sort of a bit fortunate, I think many of us as industries were capable of having a successful international market to sustain our capacity and capability. So we have a good foundation to build, but it still takes a long time to build capacity and stockpiles, and at the same time supporting Ukraine. So this is something I've never experienced in my life in industry, in sort of growth and investments and contracting and short lead times and all that. So lots of things are happening, especially I think in the eastern part of Europe.
Definitely. This is a particular situation because, as you mentioned, apart from restocking and resupplying ourselves as the countries of the region, we also have to somehow split it and share it with Ukraine in order to support them in their war effort. You have a unique vantage point. You have an interesting point of view that you can take on different things within the industry, a very vibrant industry. In your opinion, the Swedish companies that work in defense and security, what they can bring to the table in order to actually support this effort of protecting ourselves within this volatile region now?
Well, I think an extremely important step, I must say, was to sort of get Sweden and Finland into NATO, being part of the alliance.
Definitely.
Because we bring not only strong defense forces and capabilities in that perspective, but also unproportionately big defense industries for our countries, so to say. I mean, us as a company having everything from fighter aircrafts to submarines to airborne early warning to sensors and advanced weapon systems in a rather small country like Sweden is all based on international success on export. And of course we bring all that also from a regional perspective in terms of security of supply, quite sort of in the eastern part of Europe and the northern part of Europe, to the alliance and to the resilience of Europe going forward. So I think we have a lot to contribute with, and not being in the alliance is sort of a little bit of a problem, but now we're there in the alliance and we can manage the northern flank, so to say, in a completely different way. And the Baltic Sea becomes something completely different now when we are the alliance. So many things is positive in that direction, I would say.
I think especially in the times of danger, it is about cooperation, especially in terms of defense and security. So it goes even beyond the borders of unions as well, as you just said. So we spoke about what your company provides, and it's doing very well on the defense market as well as actually one of the most successful in the region. What are the challenges that you would say Sweden and your company are facing in this time of need for Ukraine?
I mean, growth is inspiring to be sort of in this growth path, but it's also a challenge in terms of finding all the people that you need, the great engineers, the recruitment process, but also these investments in increasing capacity is something that is not done overnight. We have quadrupled the output from 22 to next year when it comes to ammunitions and weapon systems. So we're doing a lot, but those are the challenges. And then we have to make sure that we don't spend all our efforts on making sure that we have the capacity, but also actually invest for the future in terms of new technology, embracing new technology. And we can learn a lot from Ukraine and that war, which is sort of both sort of a very sort of conventional war, but also at the same time extremely innovative in terms of how quickly they turn around new technology into the theater, so to say. So challenges are like any other industry today, I think, as quickly as possible, grow our capacity and capability, starting from a sort of a level that we've never... Fortunately, we had a reasonable level, but we have to step up dramatically. I think many European countries have a wake-up call, but I don't think really we're doing enough. I think this is a huge paradigm shift. We're taking incremental steps, doing investments, but I think we have to do more. And the challenge is, of course, also the discussions with the political leadership about this. Where are the sort of... What's the
Where
level?
do we draw the line as well?
Exactly, and what levels do we have to... What levels do we have to meet, and what levels do we have to sustain over time, and who is prepared to pay for that sort of insurance to have this capacity? Those discussions still continue.
Definitely. And also the length of time, because
Absolutely.
I remember when in 2022 there was the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and the war began full-scale, because we know that there was also 2014. And we were all talking about it, thinking about it more of a long distance run than just a sprint. So this is, I think, also one of the challenges. We are in Warsaw right now during the Warsaw Security Forum, and I wanted to ask you about the Polish-Swedish cooperation within the defense sector. Are there any particular successful projects that are happening as of now, or maybe there's something in the cards in the future to come?
No, of course, I mean, and I can't sort of see two better countries than to lead sort of the capability development and also taking a big responsibility for the northeastern flank, so to say, than Sweden and Poland. We share the Baltic Sea. We have lots of critical underwater structures in the Baltic Sea, which we have common equipments trying to protect, of course. I think in the naval domain we have a lot in common in terms of what we actually do. We have deployed a Swedish SIGINT ship in Sweden, a new one, and we are contracted to build 2 of those for the Polish Navy. And a good example how we will share intelligence and going forward as countries, I think. We both fly the airborne early warning type of aircraft now. We just delivered 2 of them to Poland, which also will be a big possibility to share sort of a recognized air picture, what's going on. And hopefully we can sort of find a way of collaborating also on the submarine side of things going forward, with the Orca program in Poland coming up, and we are building submarines for the Swedish Navy as we speak. So I see lots of potential in working even closer going forward, I must say. And we share many other common equipments like support weapons, the Carl Gustaf support weapons now that we just contracted with Poland is also used by Sweden. So training will be possible across border, of course. So there's so many areas where we have the same sort of view of the CONOPS, and we have the same aggressive threat to the east, and all our systems are built to handle that threat. If you think about the neutrality of Sweden over many decades, we built all our systems to handle that.
It's an interesting development, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. It's fascinating. But it's inspiring. It's tragic that we have a war. We must help Ukraine win that war. And we must collaborate between countries and industries to make that happen.
Only but a few minutes ago you mentioned that it's a wake-up call for Europe. It's a wake-up call for the continent, and there is not enough being done in order to speed up the process of protecting ourselves against the threat from the east. With Poland having the GDP spending, one of the highest GDP spendings in Europe when it comes to security and defense, what is your opinion on what Poland is doing in terms of trying to protect itself from the eastern flank?
I think it's incredibly impressive what Poland is doing. Looking at this as there are no compromises. I mean, there will be an aggressor that is unpredictable for a long time to come, and to build sort of deterrence level that so that nothing happens now going forward, that the threshold will be so high for any aggressive act from the east is an impressive act, and you have moved as a country forward in an extremely quick way in acquiring new capabilities, in training, in operationalizing this in country, but also in continuous support of Ukraine. So I think Poland is maybe the best example of how forward-leaning you have to be, and Poland is probably one of the few countries in Europe that have seen this as a paradigm shift rather than sort of taking it step by step and see what's happening. You have taken the decision that there is no compromises. We have to protect ourselves going forward. Nothing bad must happen again. So I'm extremely impressed with Poland.
We're speaking about the Swedish and Polish cooperation. We spoke about strengths. Now let's talk about the challenges. What would you say the challenges between the cooperation of Poland and Sweden are?
Well, I think maybe one of the challenges is that we don't have any time, and somehow the decision process in certain areas are a little bit long. So I think both Sweden and Poland sort of need to sort of have more dialogue about sort of common things in the Baltic region and how we want to go about things. And I'd like sort of the defense forces to have more and more dialogue about that, so we quickly can get to an alignment of requirements and do things together. That is still a little bit cumbersome as a process, I would say. And then again, we share the same challenges on what do we need now to deter any aggressor going forward, and define that quickly enough in our defense planning processes to make sure that we can direct industry in competition, of course, to go and help us build that capacity. That process is still a bit sort of slow, and it's the same in Sweden. So if they can sort of quickly get the dialogue going on what is actually needed going forward, we can help also, of course, to continue to invest and build these capacities. It's a little bit of the process type of things, I would say. But then, of course, Sweden has a big challenge in now getting completely within the alliance. It's not that we're not interoperable. We are compliant, we're compatible with NATO requirements.
It's a paradigm shift for you as well.
Absolutely, but we have a lot to learn in that respect. And I think Poland is one of the important countries that we have to work with when it comes to alliance.
And in terms of high technology and armament, from your perspective, as our final point of the conversation, what would be the points that you would give to the leaders of European countries in terms of what has to be done next in order to improve at a faster rate?
I think having be a little bit more quick when it comes to embracing new technologies that can lead to new capabilities. We prepared to sort of use AI, artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, drones, man-on-man teaming, as quickly as possible, but there is also a necessity for the defense forces to absorb that and take that into operations. That sort of loop to focus also on the future technologies is something that I would give leadership a task to sort of help defense forces push forward. And then, of course, set the level of where we have to be when it comes to stockpiles, sustainable levels of production, capacity, define that more clearly, and we will continue to invest as industries. Those are two sort of wishes I have from the political side.
Well, let's hope that they actually come true. Thank you so much for joining me today and for your invaluable insight. And so this was Michael Johansson, the president and CEO of Swedish defense company Saab. My name is Klaudia Czerwińska, and please stay tuned here on TVP World for more.